The chapter, I will start the chapter metallurgy, which means extraction of metals. Extraction of metals. Metallurgy means extraction of metals. We have to make metals. We have to manufacture the metals. So metallurgy is all about that. Okay, first you have to know a little bit, general knowledge type or some general knowledge type question they give in chemistry. So you have to know difference between metals and non-metals. What are the differences between the metals and the non-metals? I will point out for you. I think you have the idea, but recap. Okay, let me tell you. You are saying whatever. Now I am telling you from this aspect. Okay. Okay, we say like this. Okay, ready? No, just listen. Metals are electron donors, non-metals are electron acceptors. Metals contain 1, 2, 3 electrons in their valence shell. Non-metal contains 4, 5, 6 and 7 electrons in their last shell, valence shell. Metals are electropositive in nature. They have positive valency. That means they are capable of losing electrons. They are capable of donating electrons. Whereas non-metals are electronegative in nature, and non-metals are electron acceptor. They have negative valency. Okay. Next, after that, metals are reducing agent. And non-metals are oxidizing agent. Metals are reducing agent. This is important. Stress on it. Metals are reducing agent, whereas non-metals are oxidizing agent. Okay. Now let me tell you what is reducing agent and what is its role. Reducing agent is the substance that causes reduction, and oxidizing agent is the substance that causes oxidation. The substance which can do the work of reduction is called reducing agent. The substance which can do the work of oxidation is called oxidizing agent. Okay, now let me tell you what is reduction, what is oxidation. Reduction is the process of, or if I start with oxidation, oxidation is the process of addition of oxygen, removal of hydrogen, and the loss of electron. This process is called oxidation, and the substance which will do this work, the substance which will remove hydrogen or which will add oxygen or which will cause the atoms to lose the electron, they will be oxidizing agent. What are reducing agents? Reducing agents are the reduction. Reduction is the process of just reverse of this. Reduction is the process of addition of hydrogen, removal of oxygen, and gain of electrons. Gain of electrons is reduction. And the substance which will make a substance to remove oxygen and to gain hydrogen or to lose electron are called reducing agent. Okay, metals, why metals are reducing agent? This question also had come in ICC quite many times. Why metals are reducing agents? Question, not answer. Since metals are capable of losing electrons, that means metals make the other atom to gain electron. that means metal does the work of reduction. Gain of electron is called reduction. It is making the other atom to gain the electron which it loses. So it is a reducing agent, because it is doing the work of reduction. And on the other hand, non-metals are oxidizing agent. Why? Because non-metal accepts the electron which is lost by the other atom. That means non-metals make the other atom to lose electron. That means it causes oxidation of the other atom. That's why it is an oxidizing agent. Loss of electron is oxidation and gain of electron is reduction. Hope it is clear, I suppose. If question comes, why metals are reducing agent? Because metals contain extra number of electrons, yeah, then they can donate the electrons, they can lose the electrons to the other atom, and the metals can make the other atom to gain the electron. That is, metals is doing the work of reduction. That's why it is a reducing agent. Hope it is clear. Say yes or no, it is one of them. Okay. Now, coming to the metals. Metal forms, there are 4 oxides. In chemistry, there are 4 types of oxides. First one is called basic oxide. Basic oxides. Second one is called acidic oxides. Third one is called amphoteric oxide. And the fourth one is called neutral oxide. There are 4 categories of oxides. Okay. Yes. Metalloids in between them, it doesn't come under metal or non-metal. It does not come under any. Okay, now these 2 oxides, basic oxides and amphoteric oxides, are made by metal. Metal form basic oxide and amphoteric oxides, whereas non-metals form, these are the 2 oxides formed by non-metals. Non-metals form acidic oxide and neutral oxides. Okay, now let me tell you the property of basic oxide and their examples. Okay, basic oxides cannot react with the base. Since it is basic and another one is the base, there will be no reaction between them. Basic oxides, when it reacts with an acid, it gives salt and water. That is, basic oxide will be reacting with the acid. It can react with the acid to form salt and water, but it cannot react with the base. What are the examples of basic oxide? Basic oxide example is calcium oxide, iron oxide, magnesium oxide, then copper oxides, etc. They are basic oxides. Okay. Now coming to the acidic oxides. The oxides of non-metal which can not react with an acid. Acid and acid will be no reaction. And for neutral oxide, over here, copper oxide, CuO. Okay, acidic oxides cannot react with an acid, but it can react with a base to form salt and water. Basic oxide cannot react with base, but it can react with the acid to give salt and water. Same way, acidic oxide cannot react with the acid because it is already acidic in nature. It will not have any reaction with acid, but it reacts with the base to give salt and water. What are the examples of acidic oxides? Non-metal oxide such as CO2, such as SO2, such as NO2, etc. Carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, they are the example of acidic oxides. And when acidic oxide will be dissolved in water, they will make an acid. They will form an acid. Okay. What are amphoteric oxides? They are also the oxides of metal which have ability of reacting with both base and also with an acid. So amphoteric oxides are those that can react with both base and acid to give salt and water. And there are only 3 oxides which are amphoteric in nature. That is, there are only 3 amphoteric metals. That we have to know. The examples are very important. The first one is zinc oxide, next one is PbO, and the last one is Al2O3. These 3 oxides are amphoteric in nature. That is, they have a tendency to react with acid and also with the base, which is not like this kind of oxides. They have a special property. What is the special property? That they can react with both acid and base to give salt and water. From the list, if they ask you to choose the amphoteric oxide or amphoteric metal, you choose this one: zinc, lead, and aluminum. Let me tell you, when they react with a base or any hydroxide, they will make a complex salt. Complex salt. Like if they react with sodium hydroxide, this will make sodium zincate. This kind of salt will be there. This is called complex salt. That I will teach in the acid-base salt and what is complex salt and examples. PbO will make plumbate salt, plumbate, when react with a base or with an alkali. Aluminium oxide will make aluminate, and they all are soluble and they all are complex salt. ZnO will make what kind of salt? When reacts with a base, it will make a zincate type of salt, zincate, plumbate, aluminate. This kind of salt they make when they react with an alkali. What I mean to say is, ZnO plus NaOH, if they react, they will make sodium zincate. The formula of sodium zincate is like this: Na2ZnO2 plus H2. They make a gas H2. And PbO, when it reacts with NaOH, it will give Na2PbO2 plus H2. Sodium plumbate, sodium zincate. And when aluminium oxide reacts with NaOH, this will give sodium aluminate. Sodium aluminate will write NaAlO2 will write here plus H2 like that. This will be the reaction will take place. And with the acid they will make normal salt. Like ZnO plus HCl will give ZnCl2 plus H2O, salt and water. Normal salt. So these are all complex salt and they all are soluble in water. So these are the example of these examples may not be needed, but just keep at the back of your mind that when amphoteric metal reacts with an alkali, they make complex salt like zincate, plumbate, aluminate. This kind of salt they make. Okay, now coming to the neutral oxide. What are neutral oxides? These are the oxides of non-metal that can react neither with the acid nor with the base. What are the example of neutral oxide? The example of neutral oxide is carbon monoxide, nitrogen monoxide, nitric oxide or NO, and one more is the N2O, nitrous oxides. These are neutral oxides. They are neutral. They do not take part in chemical reaction with the acid nor with the base, but they can react with both acid and base. And this can react only with the acid. I think you got the idea. That means we can say metal forms basic and amphoteric oxide, whereas non-metal forms acidic and neutral oxides. Hope it is clear. Okay. Now, yes, yeah. Okay, it's clear. Yes, thank you. Now, there are some exceptions here and there that you have to know. Okay, I have given you the notes also. You can see the notes, and over there I have given all these points with asterisks. First point I have said like this: metals are actually what generally solids, and non-metals are liquid and gases. But there are two metals which are liquid at room temperature. What are they? One is mercury, and the other one is gallium. There are two metals, mercury and gallium, which are non-metals at room temperature or at ordinary temperature. Name a liquid metal, we'll go for mercury. But if the question is name a liquid metal other than mercury, then what is the other choice we have? Gallium. Gallium, Gallium, gallium. So anyway, you will see in my notes. Capital G, small a, yeah, you can add the symbol Ga, right? Now another one. Generally, non-metals are, I told you, liquids or the gases. but there are two non-metals which are solids at room temperature. What are they? Do you know? Which are the two non-metals which are solids? Everything. Okay. And what is the other one? What is the other? Yeah, carbon. Yes. Looking for carbon because carbon is coal, diamond, graphite. Carbon, graphite, diamond, they all are solids, coal. So carbon is a non-metal which is solid. Even sulfur, I told you last time, sulfur is called brimstone, burning stone, yellow color solid. Sulfur is also non-metal which is solid. Hope it is clear. Iodine also. Iodine also, yes. Iodine also is a blue color solid. So name a non-metal that is solid. Iodine sometimes in making, yes. No, once they said naphthalene, is it sublimable or not? Naphthalene balls, my dear brother, the naphthalene ball is solid or liquid? What tell me? And it is sublimable or not? Like camphor is also sublimable or not? Yeah, then how it is in the solid form? You have to protect, you have to give protection. You have to give, you cannot keep it open other than it will sublime. Slowly it will sublime. The same thing applies to iodine also. Okay. Now, what is called allotropy? You know the meaning of allotropy? Allotropy is a term, is a kind of phenomenon. Allotropy. 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 Allotropy is the phenomenon of existence of an element in more than one form having same chemical properties but different physical properties. And the various forms of the element are called allotropes. For example, like carbon has got various forms. No? Carbon has got a form like coal, diamond, graphite, charcoal. There are different forms. Their existence in the nature is in the different physical form we have. But chemically they all are same. They all are carbon only. Their chemical formula is C. And when you heat them, when you heat carbon, you get carbon dioxide. Same way, when you heat any one of them, even diamond also, when you heat, you will give carbon dioxide. So chemically they are all same, but physically, look wise, density wise, physical properties are different. So there are two elements, they have allotropes. What are those two elements? The answer is again carbon and sulfur. Name two non-metals that have allotropes or that exhibit allotropy. The answer is carbon and sulfur, yes. After that, generally you have seen also that metals are good conductor of electricity and non-metals are bad conductor of electricity. Do you know any metal which is a bad conductor of electricity? Any metal which is a bad conductor of electricity? Metal, bad conductor. Normally they are good conductor, but any metal which is a bad conductor of electricity, the answer is tungsten. Tungsten's resistance is very, very high. That's why it is able to produce large quantity of heat. Tungsten. Tungsten formula is what? What is the symbol for tungsten? Do you know? Not clear. Tungsten symbol is W, capital W, tungsten. W is what? Tungsten symbol. Okay, anyway, just keep yourself informed. Now, similarly, non-metals are generally bad conductors, but do we have any non-metals which are good conductor of electricity? Answer is again yes. Exceptions are always there. So, the answer is graphite and the gas carbon. These are the two non-metals which are good conductor of electricity. What is gas carbon? Carbon dioxide, carbon you burn and then the smoke you have to condense. That is called, yeah. You condense it and it changes into gas carbon. We call it gas carbon. So they are good conductor of electricity. Name a non-metal that is a good conductor of electricity. The answer is graphite. Hope it is clear. Now, name two non-metals. They which are lustrous. They have a metallic shine. Luster means they look like metal. As metal shine, they also have silver is which one? Name two non-metals which have metallic luster or metallic shine. What is the answer? Platinum is a metal. I am talking about non-metal. Name a non-metal that looks like metal and they have the metallic shine, metallic luster. They have to be non-metal. No, I am talking about the non-metal. Metals, all of metals normally shines. Yeah, answer is graphite. Graphite and iodine. These are the two non-metals which have metallic shine. They have the shine of metal. As the metal shine, they also shine. But all of the two, iodine sometimes on heating, whereas graphite does not sometimes. One year they had asked this question in ICC, and the question was like this: name a non-metal that has a metallic shine and which sometimes on heating. What is the answer? This time the answer will be only one. There are two answers that we know, but but the answer, the actual answer will be related to only one of them, and that is iodine. Yeah. Okay, now the answer is iodine. Okay. Hope you understood all these points, like you are having the knowledge about them. Now, do you know what is called malleability? What is called malleability? Malleability or malleable. Metals are malleable and non-metals are non-malleable. I think you were pointing on that point only, no? Wait, Bharat. I think you were talking about this only, no? Malleability only you were talking about, no? That's what. Yes. Malleability. What is malleability? Malleability is the property by all metals are malleable. Malleable means we can beat them into sheets. When you beat a metal into sheets, it is called that property is called malleability, and the metals which can be beat into sheets are called malleable, which are able to be beaten into sheets are called malleable. You understand? And the other term is ductility. You are drawn into the wires. Ductility is the property of a metal to be drawn into wires. Drawn into the wires and beaten into the sheets. Normally metals are ductile and they are malleable, because we can beat them into sheets, like we have got aluminum sheet, iron sheet, copper metal sheet. You can make all this plate or sheet we can make by beating them. Okay, now generally metals are malleable and ductile, but do we have any metals which are non-malleable and non-ductile? A metal which is non-malleable and non-ductile. First we can think and give me the answer like mercury. Mercury is a liquid. Can you make wire out of it? Yeah, gallium, that also comes, but they are liquid. I am talking about, can you name a solid metal which is non-malleable and non-ductile? Solid metal. No. Tungsten, we are making wire with tungsten filament you are using in the bulb there. Come on. You are having the filament means what? Coiled wires only, no? No, gold is quite malleable. You are making ornament, jewelry is all thing on there. Unless you do that, how it is possible to make ornaments? The answer is zinc. Zinc is the metal which is non-malleable and non-ductile. Zinc we can beat. Zinc is a brittle at ordinary temperature. Zinc is a metal which is brittle. You know the meaning of brittle? When you heat it, it will smash into pieces like glass. glass will break into pieces. Either you drop it or you hit it with something, it will break into. Then this glass will drop on the floor. What happens? It is smashed into pieces or not? That is called brittle. That property is called brittleness. So zinc is a metal which is brittle at room temperature. That is, zinc metal, if you drop on the floor, it will smash into pieces. Even you can crush with the hands like this, and it will change into powder. It will crush into pieces. So since zinc is a brittle metal, so definitely it will be malleable, non-malleable, it will be non-ductile. How can you make it? When you are going to beat it, it will smash into pieces. How can you get a sheet or a plate out of it? You cannot make it. And the ductility also, we cannot make wire out of it because it is brittle in nature. Hope it is clear. Now the next point. Sodium. Sodium is the answer of many questions. Okay. Sodium is the softest solid metal that can be cut with a knife. We can cut sodium metal with a knife because sodium cakes we have. And that cake are so soft that we can even cut with a knife. Name a metal that can be cut with a knife. The answer is sodium. Okay, sodium and potassium are the metals which are lighter than water. Normally metals are denser than water. When you put in water, they will sink. But it is sodium and potassium. These two metals are lighter than water. They float on the surface of water, or they dart. Dart means float. They dart on the surface of water. And another thing, sodium and potassium on exposure to air or oxygen, they will catch fire. So for this reason, these two metals, particularly sodium, is stored under kerosene. Sodium metal is kept under kerosene oil, because it is denser than kerosene but lighter than water, and it does not react with the kerosene. So not to react with the air, you have to keep it inside kerosene so that it does not react with the air. Otherwise, it will start catching fire. So, name a metal that is stored under kerosene. Again, the answer is sodium. Now, another one. Normally, metals are sonorous. What is the meaning of sonorous? It is producing sound. It has sound producing ability. When you heat a metal, it is able to produce sound, and it produces. We know which is the most sonorous metal. The answer is tin. That's why every bell metal, they are made up of tin. When you bang the tin or when you hit the tin, it produces sound. I mean, quite sharp sound it produces. So generally metals are sonorous and non-metals are non-sonorous. Can we have any metal that's non-sonorous? Again, answer will come mercury. Mercury is a liquid, so definitely it will not make any sound when you hit it. Sound has to be a sharper one, I mean, not the flat sound. Okay, sound should have high pitch. So first answer will come mercury, because mercury is liquid, so it is non-sonorous. But can we have any solid metal that is non-sonorous? The answer is sodium. Sodium is the softest solid metal that you are cutting with a knife. So when you hit it, it will not make any sound. I mean, metallic type of sound, high frequency sound. I mean, sharper sound, it will not be able to make. So again, sodium is answer. Now, flame test. This is the kind of practical, it comes under the analytical chemistry. Okay. Analytical chemistry has got two parts. First, I last time made the table, the color of the precipitate, like cations, ferrous, baric, and all that we had done. And first we had little bit of ammonium hydroxide, then excess of ammonium hydroxide. Or we can do with the NaOH, little bit of NaOH and then excess. That comes under the analytical chemistry. And this flame test also comes under the analytical chemistry. The color of the flame. Sodium burns in air with the flame golden yellow. Sodium metal burns with the golden yellow flame. Remember it. And potassium burns with lilac or purple flame. I have given all these points in the notes. You can refer to it. Then, calcium burns with the brick red flame, and magnesium burns with white flame, dazzling white light it produces, dazzling white. So these observations are also important. Sodium flame is what color? What is the color of the sodium flame? No. Brick red is calcium. So sodium is golden yellow, just now you said golden yellow. Potassium is lilac. Lilac is purple, purple type. Okay, they use in the chemistry is lilac, Lilac. Lilac is very very close to purple. Okay, then I said about this one, calcium burns with the brick red flame, and magnesium burns with what kind of flame? Dazzling white flame. Yes. That is why they are used, magnesium powder is used in fireworks. Last time I told you about that. Fireworks, and that releases ammonia gas. Because magnesium reacts with the nitrogen forming magnesium nitride, and when warm water is added to it, it gives ammonia. I think last time I told and talked about it. Hope all these essential points you have learned well, I suppose. And it is there in your notes also. You can refer to it and you will be perfect in that. Hope it is clear. Tell me any thoughts, any clarification you have. Yes. Any point which is not clear to you and you want to clarify. Non-metals are all generally non-sonorous only. But is there any non-metal which is sonorous? We can say graphite. Graphite is somewhat close to looking like metal type, quite strong. But it will not make that kind of sound. Not high sound it will not make. Okay. Now any other? All important things about the metals and non-metals I mentioned, exceptions and all I discussed just now. Okay. Now next one we have to know terms related to metallurgy. Terms related to the extraction of metals or metallurgy. First one comes minerals. You can see the notes is all there. I'm just explaining to you all those notes. Minerals. What are minerals? How do we define minerals? We say the compounds, obviously chemical compound, the compounds in the nature containing one or more metals, including impurities, are called minerals. Quite simple definition. The compounds in the nature containing one or more metals, including impurities, or along with impurities, is called minerals. Okay, now second one is ores. What are ores? We say those minerals from which a metal can be extracted profitably and conveniently. So they are called ores. Those minerals from which a metal can be extracted profitably and conveniently is called an ore. There are many minerals, but from them getting metal will be quite difficult and very expensive. So they are only called minerals. And from those minerals which gives us metal profitably, that means at a very low cost and easy way, so they are called ores. Thus we say all ores are minerals, but all minerals are not ores. Hope it is clear. All minerals are not ores, but all ores are minerals. Okay. Third point is gangue. Gangue. This is also called matrix. Matrix. M-A-T-R-I-X. Matrix. We said the earthly impurities associated with an ore. The earthly impurities associated with an ore, including rocky impurities, including rocks and silica particles, are called gangue or matrix. Matrix are the earthly impurities. Yes. Gangue. Gangue. Gangue or matrix. M-A-T-R-I-X. Matrix. So the earthly impurities associated with an ore, including rocks and the silica particles, are called gangue. Hope it is clear. Fourth one is called flux. The substance, flux is the substance added to an ore in order to get rid of gangue, is called flux. The substance which is added to an ore in order to remove gangue or matrix is called flux. Actually, flux reacts with the gangue at high temperature to form a compound, and that compound will be called slag, SLAG, slag. And slag is a fusible compound, which these two will get together and in the molten form it is formed, slag. That's why we write one equation like this. We write this: flux plus gangue is equal to slag. We write on this equation. Flux plus gangue gives slag. Sometimes they may give you fill in the blanks type question. Fill in the blanks, they will say. They will write flux plus dash equal to dash, and here you will write gangue and here you will write slag. Hope it is clear. Yes or no? Any points which is not clear to you, please bring out to my notice. Is it okay? SLAG, slag. It is not slang. SLAG. Yes, Bharat. Flux is the substance which will be added to an ore. Why we add? To remove gangues, to remove the earthly impurities. And actually there will be chemical reaction taking place at high temperature, which you have to heat it. Then these two will get together, will form a combined product, and that combined product will be the molten form, and it is called slag, SLAG, slag. One example I will give you, okay, just if you don't know, I will give the example. Mostly silicon dioxide, this is called silica particles, will be present in an ore. We will be using calcium oxide, this is called quicklime. You heat it. These two will get together and it will form like CaSiO3. This is slag. This is flux. This is gangue. This is the reaction taking place at high temperature. They will get combined together and form a molten compound which is called slag. Calcium silicate is the name of this compound. So this is one example, but now this example is not in the syllabus. That's why I did not mention in the copy. This is out of syllabus. But only have to know this one. Flux plus gangue makes a compound. It is called slag. And what is the role of the slag? To remove the gangue particle by forming slag. Now the ore will be free from the gangue, because all the gangues present in the ore will be taking part in chemical reaction to form slag.